Events are the magic in any Windows type application, and we can use events to allow our web forms to react to user actions, and we'll talk about how these are managed as well. Now, there's two categories of events that you need to be aware of and you need to use in an ASP.NET web page. First of all, there's the server-side events. These require a trip to the server to allow for the ASP functionality to take place. Now, these are much more powerful than client-side events. In the ASP.NET world, a lot of the controls, the server controls that we use, have a lot of functionality built into them. Just by dropping these things on the web form, a lot of things are going to happen for us that we don't have to code to. Now, on the server side, however, there's a limited number of events. Because, for example, we don't want mouse overs. Just by mousing over something, we don't want that to fire off a server-side event. That means as our user moves their mouse around on the page and they move over a button, that it sends something back to the server to cause something to happen. Then when they move over another button, it sends it to the server. This would make our web pages horribly slow. So there's a limited number of events to server-side. Client-side, this is where these events are handled on the actual client-side computer that requested the web page. No information gets sent to the web server, so they're very fast. Code gets interpreted and executed on the client. This is what most people use JavaScript or VBScript for. A good example is you have a number of text boxes in a form, and you just want to check to see if the form has been completely filled out. And so you check to make sure that each text box has some information. So you can check that when they click on Submit and take care of that on the client side. Also, mouse overs work excellent on the client side, that if I mouse over a button, that it will pop up a tool tip, it will change the color of something, or it will kick off some other event in a program. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to server and client side events, and I just want to briefly touch on those. On the server side events, the big advantage is that we can access the server and any resources that the server can see. And of course, this means connecting to databases, connecting to email boxes, or whatever is out there. We also have code security. Anything that operates on the server side lives on the server side, which means the client never sees that code, not even in the view source functionality of the web browser. So that's pretty big. And server side functionality in ASP.NET is compiled, which means, of course, that code is going to run more efficiently. It's going to run faster. Now, I hope I've pointed out explicitly enough earlier. In ASP.NET, the first time we request a web page, it is slower than the old ASP world. But that's because it's going through compilation. Each subsequent access of that page is considerably faster thanks to that compilation. Now, client-side events, the advantages are that they're fast when no server input is needed. If somebody mouses over and I want to see a picture pop up or change or something, then that needs to happen on the client side. We don't need to go back to the server for that. It utilizes client resources. Now, ASP.NET, as you can already tell, does a lot of magic on the server side, but it's also going to use more server-side resources, which means you're going to have to beef up some hardware, keep this thing tuned and optimized. Whereas on the client side, anything that we can pass out to the client, we've distributed our resource utilization, and the client CPU and memory can be used. And on the client side, this is usually to validate information before sending it up to the server. Now, what are the disadvantages of events on the server side? Obviously, it requires a round trip and it utilizes server resources. I've already mentioned these. But keep in mind, this can be huge. While it's cool to send stuff to the server and have this functionality, it's not a good idea to just send everything to the server. We'll talk about this a lot more when we look at the controls individually. So this does require some planning on your part. You'll have to be kind of keen on exactly what's going back to the server and what's not. On the client side, some disadvantages to the events. These only work with HTML controls. All of the new ASP.NET type controls won't run on the client side, only on the server side will they function correctly. On the client side, you're isolated to the client's machine. You can't access resources on the server, nor can the server access other resources for you, such as databases and so forth. So you are somewhat limited on the client side. And then probably the big one on the client side is security issues. Anything that lives on the client side can be seen on the client side in the view source functionality. So I don't want to put connection strings to databases, passwords, usernames, any of that kind of stuff in my code that's going to be out there executing on the client side, because people can more easily find that and manipulate it to our disadvantage. So an event, straightforward, is something that we want to happen based on a user action. So an event is the response to a user action. This may be clicking on a button, moving a mouse over a picture, clicking on a picture, doing all sorts of things. We program to these events and we give our web pages interactivity, and it makes the experience for the user much more rewarding and much more interesting on our website. Now in the next video, we're actually going to play with some events and code them and show you how to make these things come to life.